And while all of this is happening, of course, we've had the chance of speaking to a lot of people who had, some personal relation, if you can say, or had the chance to meet the Queen, maybe even on business as well. And one such person is here in the studios with us. Between 2014 and 2017, he served as Ghana's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom under the Eswa Mahama government. Even before that, he was also a special aide to former President Jerry John Rawlings. At a point, he also served as Ghana's ambassador to the Czech Republic under the late John Evans Atta Mills's reign. He is here with us, His Excellency Victor Emmanuel Smith. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
I'm not sure how you took the news when it was announced officially that the Queen had passed. What were you doing at that point and how did you receive it?
Well, thank you very much. On the 8th of September, it was a Thursday.
Yeah.
There was a meeting with the former president, former ambassadors were meeting with him. And there was the rumor that once the family were being called to Balmoral, it could be a signal that the end had come for the monarch.
Okay.
Well, we still hadn't heard the facts, so it was all rumor. Some people were saying that, no, it must be, that she has passed. So sometime during the day, around about 2 o'clock, I made a call to London through my contacts in the palace. And I indicated to the gentleman that I wanted him to speak to the former president, who he knew quite well.
Okay.
And he said to me, would love to speak to him, but things are very difficult today. This is a signal,
Okay.
I don't want to be the one to upset him today. So obviously, he was saying to me that she was dead, but it was not official.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is why we concluded that she might have passed. And then around 6 o'clock, the news was now made public.
I'm sure the moment you heard that, it took you down memory lane. And we want to travel on that journey with you. I mean, I'm assuming that back in 1999 was when you first officially met the Queen, even though she had traveled to Ghana to meet former President Jerry John Rawlings. Tell us about that.
Well, before 1999, when she came, she had been in 1961, so I'm old enough. But I was a small, I didn't meet her.
Okay.
I was a small boy.
Okay.
And I remember around the State House, you could hear we lived around the sirens, Kwame Nkrumah, all the songs they were playing for the Queen coming to Ghana. So that was when, if you like, I got to know there was such
Queen.
A person.
Okay.
A very tender age. But in 1999, when she came, I was working with the former president. Indeed, the former first lady was, I was a personal aide to her. So we were around her most of the time. Of course, still, we wouldn't just break protocol and speak to her or even go and shake her hand. We can only bow, when she passes by you. Of course, it was a big day, as you can see on the screen, that she came to Ghana that time. It put Ghana on a pedestal, when you have all these prominent, powerful people of this world visit our country. This continued for a while. On the Fourth Republic, you've had several, I think, the presidents from the United States and all using Ghana as their first place of call when they come into power. So, in a way, Ghana was doing well. I don't know what they think of us now.
You don't know what they think of us now?
I don't know what they think of us now. But let's focus on Her Majesty.
On her, exactly. How significant was her appearance in Parliament at this time? Because she was there to announce that former President Rawlings was going to leave power in 2000 after the elections. And that also caused some, conversation all across the country. How significant was that?
Well, let me put it this way. A lot of people may not know this, but I asked the former president whilst we were, while he had left power, I had a chat with him. And I asked him, why did you leave power? I just wanted to know, And he asked me, or he put it this way, did I have a choice?
Oh.
Now, this is big. It shocked a lot of people didn't know this.
Wow.
I said, what do you mean you have a, you were the president? He said, yes, but I was literally giving an ultimatum.
What?
To go into, what is it called, civilian rule. Yeah, not to leave power. I mean, the country must prepare the country. That was a statement. Yeah. Prepare the country for constitutional government.
Wow.
He said I didn't have a choice because a message came from United States Department to say that you need to prepare the country for civilian rule. And he wanted to know why. Why should this happen? And he said, well, the emissary said, I was only given this letter to be given to you from the State Department. Of course, they knew that when the Western powers tried to put pressure on you, you have to yield somehow, So he prepared the country for civilian rule, of course, and then he became the first president of the Fourth Republic and had his 2 terms and then left office eventually.
So there must have been a conversation between him and the Queen as to why she had to come. Let's quickly take a listen to what the Queen said in Parliament on that fateful day. We'll come back and continue the conversation.
At Ghana's Parliament, the Queen arrived with a forthright message about the need for democracy. The President, Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rawlings, was once seen as a military dictator, but he'll step down after next year's elections. The Queen's reference to that brought an unexpected reaction for a monarch accustomed to being heard in silence.
Next year, your President, who has led you through these momentous changes, will reach the end of his 2nd term. His successor is to be chosen freely and fairly by the people of Ghana.
But this was a day for ceremony and for celebration, a day to bask in open displays of adulation. The Queen met tribal elders standing in line to pay their tributes, and she visited a school, welcomed there in song. Welcome, Your Majesty. The lesson seemed to be that although Ghana's long been a republic, respect is undiminished for its former sovereign.
Very interesting there, of course, the Queen, not only visiting parliaments, but visiting some schools as well. But clearly, she also wasn't expecting that kind of response when she said that.
But of course, she's used to democracy, in her country, even though she's the monarch. She knew that, you had to have elections and all that, and she knew about our constitution. But I believe strongly that this whole conversation about going to constitutional rule and let's have democracy working as a decision by the world powers, which will include British government. And the monarch's speech probably was prepared for her to read. But this is what they all do together. And they had already hinted him, even though they said prepare for civilian rule, they wanted, okay, you can go through it, but it's still civilian rule. And then there's a constitution which says you have only two terms, and then that's the end of the story.
Was it because he had no intention of actually leaving power?
Well, I don't know. I simply asked him why he handed over, left the military
into civilian.
And he said he didn't have a choice. And he told me the background of this. An emissary was sent to him one day. He was at the Air Force station. I think he was going to do a flight, and then he was told that some Americans have come in here and they wanted to see him, and it was very urgent. So he went in there, and then they gave the letter to him.
Does it mean that we had no proper control of our affairs?
Not really, because, okay, he had gone on in a revolution for, from 1981 to 1991, or thereabouts. And they remember when President Rawlings was asked, when are you going to hand over? And he said, hand over to who? Of course, at that moment, they thought, hey, this guy wants to hang on. And they were trying to encourage more democracy the world over, how they go about things. So they thought, look, let's put a little pressure on this man. And of course, he conferred with his advisors, including Captain Chikata and the rest. And I think they agreed, okay, well, we'll prepare the country for civilian rule, but it doesn't take you off. So he stayed and became a civilian president.
Exactly.
And of course, after the constitution the mandate had finished, he had to leave.
Then he had to leave. Fast forward, you became Ghana's High Commissioner to the UK. under the Eswa Mahama government. And I'm sure that in 1999, when the Queen had come to Ghana, you had no idea that you were even going to eventually have to present a letter of credence to her.
Yes.
And then you became the High Commissioner. Tell me about that particular day. And for those of you who haven't seen that video yet, there was a whole documentary on when Ambassador Victor Smith was in, traveled to the palace to present that letter of credence. And so let's just take a listen to a part of it if we can.
Letters of credentials to Her Majesty the Queen of England at Buckingham Palace in London. Various subjects ranging from Ghana's cultural and colonial ties to Britain as a member of the Commonwealth and the Ebola outbreak in some part of West Africa. They also reminisce.
And that is Ambassador Victor Emmanuel Smith when he presented the letters of credentials to the Queen, of course, as he occupied the position as the Ghanaian High Commissioner to the UK. That moment must have been surreal. Like, I was watching you watch yourself on TV, and I'm sure you were having, flashbacks of those moments.
Actually, I haven't had time to look at that video.
You haven't?
I don't know when it was put on YouTube or something, but
okay.
But I saw pictures of, these things. I must say that, look, it was a very cold, a bit chilly that day, and and the marshal who came with a guy in uniform, the Marshal of the Diplomatic Corps, had wanted to close the carriage if I was feeling cold. And I said I was okay. It's okay. We'll have some water bottles in there, hot water bottles to keep us warm.
Okay.
So there he is, the guy. And then when we got in there, we stood there, and then he briefed us again that very soon gates are going to open.
Okay.
So I don't know who gave the signal, and suddenly the gates were flung open by two officers, and there was the Queen standing there alone. Alone? Alone. And I was like, how does, so I walked towards her, and of course, the first thing they school you with is to bow before Her Majesty.
I see.
And then she stretched her hands, and then we greeted. And
so you cannot stretch your hands first.
You don't even say anything to her without her saying something to you.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. She leads the conversation.
I see.
And they indicate to you when she stops and she's not talking again. It's not for you to make new stories here. This is like that means then there's the need to something else is going to follow. When she stopped, after she's finished the conversation with you.
Okay.
She was a very nice person. I mean, even though I broke a bit of the protocol when I made reference to her visit in 1961, and she laughed, and she said, "Was I that old enough to, make her?"
Remember,
I said, "Oh yeah." So we got talking. The initial thing was that when she takes the letter and then she hands, somebody comes for it, and then a few photographs are taken, and then everybody leaves the room. So you are standing right there with her, and we spoke for about 15 minutes to 20 minutes. She talked about Ebola.
I see. She started the conversation Ebola?
They already briefed her, because Ebola was in West Africa at the time that I presented the letters. She talked about, our development. She even talked about kente. She liked the kente I was wearing.
I see.
And everything, She seems to be on top of her brief. This old lady at the time, that was 2014, she must have been about 10 years, about 86 or thereabout. But she was very alert, and she led the conversation bit by bit, change the topic and take a different topic.
I see.
And I was just watching her, just like amazed. This old lady, I thought maybe she would be a bit, senile or something.
Yeah.
She wasn't. And she was there alone. And there was nothing, no phone, earphone, anything telling her anything. She was just having a chat with you. I think she's done that for 70 years. What do you expect?
Of course.
She's become part of her life to make conversation. So it was a very, memorable occasion.
Yeah.
And so the moment she thought she had had enough with me, then she asked the next question, which she has been briefed about.
Okay.
I understand you came with some of your officers. Then I said, yes. And then the door opens. I don't know. They're monitoring the conversation.
Okay.
Then the door opens. And then my officers walk in one by one to greet her and then walk out. There were 4 of them.
Okay.
Then when they had left, then she said, I understand your wife is here as well. Then the door flung open. Then she comes in.
So all this while, your wife was not allowed to walk in with you to greet her?
No. You don't go first. I am the principal.
Okay.
When we finish our conversation, then she wants to meet the other people that you came with.
Oh.
So my wife was after the officers. My wife then comes in and then, greets her, and she asked her about her stay in London and family and all that kind of stuff. Her conversation is very well structured, So the moment it was done, and I realized that I've been told that when the conversation ends, she doesn't talk anymore. Then the doors open, it's time to go.
So does she walk out first?
She doesn't. She stays there. I walk out. The doors are shut. So what happens behind the door, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there was another ambassador who was going to present credentials. So this is how, the system is so structured. The system supports the monarch.
Yeah.
So she does things so well and neatly. That's what some things are missing. I heard the earlier conversations.
I was going to ask you that. How did it make you feel about our structures down here in the system that we run?
We try to emulate the best practices in this world. We try. It looks as if we try, but we fail. Why? And you want to know why. We have laws and regulations. We have institutions, but we're not making them work for us as a nation. You heard President Obama say that allow the institutions to work.
Exactly.
The institutions work, they've been put there by law. If you allow them to work properly without interference from leadership, we might start getting things, going well for this country and other countries in Africa. Our leaders get into that driving position and they lose it. And they do things that probably please them on or their political parties. I think we have to do something about this.
How did you try to sort of fix this problem when you were the ambassador to the UK? Because clearly you also had very close relations with former President John Dramani Mahama. You must have told him about it, and of course he knows about this as well, because he also got to meet the late Queen as well. So
yes,
I'm sure that you were all very exposed to the structure out there, and you understood why there was a need to also implement that structure here. But for some reason, we're never able to.
We have the government structure includes legislature, the ones who make the laws, and then the judiciary. Apart from the executive, let me even add the fourth estate of the realm, the media. We all have a role to play. Even the ordinary people in the country have a role to play. But all the masses out there do not have the mandate that the executive has and the other organizations. You wonder why they don't want to make it work, or is it that they're just selfish? They think of themselves. They don't think of the embodiment of the nation to be solid, so that when you are out of office or you pass your time, somebody else can come and continue with the institutions working well without interference with from the leader or the leadership. If you try to bulldoze your way because you're a politician or a party, something, you create problems for the nation. We start going back, retrogressing. And this is what is happening in our country. In our time, you asked me this question. When I met with President Mahama on occasions when he visited, you sort of have a chat generally. He knows it. I mean, he's not ignorant of these things. Of course. But it's not only him who can make it, work. But we need, the government plus the media and the people, whether in the private sector or in the public sector. Human beings have got to live exemplary lives. Don't be selfish and think of tomorrow's children. If you destroy the system, and we don't have the kind of system that supported Her Majesty for 70 years, she knows that she cannot do it all by herself. But there was a system in place, the structures, the control, they manage her. And she knows it. She cannot just arbitrarily spend money, for instance. Things are voted for a purpose. And dare I say that, looking at what has gone on in the last maybe 10 days, you can see that it was already planned. This is a planned organization. Budget and everything had been put away purposely because it was going to go one day. Nobody lives forever. And then the day came, and then they kick everything into play. And now look at what is happening. Everything is so perfect. Nobody is doing anything and makes a mistake. Even those who go to pay a vigil, the grandchildren and all that, everybody knows what to do. So it's well thought out, well planned, and delivered when the time came. We need to make our system support and work for us as a people.
Well, our current leaders, and when I say leaders, I don't mean the party in power. I'm talking about politicians and, of course, the promises they make. At this point, do you think that we're anywhere close to having this kind of structure? Because earlier, when Johnny was speaking to our other guests as well, one of them was very plain when he said that our generation cannot do anything about the situation. It is your generation, he was referring to Johnny and the rest of us, who can fix the problem. So don't rely on us. How did you feel when you heard that? Because you were in the studio when he made that statement.
I heard it. Well, I guess that was his view, but I don't really subscribe to that view.
You don't?
No, I don't think we give up, we throw that, and say that we couldn't do it. No, you can't do it. We haven't done enough to get it right. But then there's still, as they say in Twi, achia embuye. Things are not doing well, but we need to still work at it. Otherwise, we don't want this country to go up in flames. We don't want to destroy the country. What about our children and grandchildren? We need to think about all those things. Are we out to destroy our country? That's not what we're trying to do. So what we need to do to make the systems work is to ensure, first of all, the rule of law. I mean, about the tenets of democracy. Rule of law is one of them. And then peace. And of course, economic, if you like, sustainable economic development. What I think we should be doing is to ensure that the law is upheld. It doesn't matter who is in power.
Okay.
Now, currently, or most recently, I heard all sorts of things being said about judiciary being corrupt, legislature being corrupt, executive being corrupt. And we know corruption is bad for this country's progress. So as human beings, what are we doing about it? We need to tackle that problem where people, because of greed and avarice, they just do things that they shouldn't be doing, not thinking about tomorrow. Systems, what we are supposed to learn from these people is that they are structured in the way they do things. And indeed, I supported the position of the Prime Minister,
Liz Truss?
Liz Truss, making a statement which is so solid. She said, modern Britain is founded on Her Majesty as a rock.
Just a quick one, by the way. So that's President Akufo-Addo in short. Unfortunately, we lost that, but I hope that they can zoom in on him some way, somehow. Okay. I hope they can hear us. But yes, we just saw a quick one of President Akufo-Addo and Madame Rebecca. Well, that's the South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa there. And
there
of course, exactly. So that's Madame Rebecca right in front there. Just next to her is President Akufo-Addo. Okay, so there he is as well. And they are making their way into the Westminster Abbey to take their seat just a few minutes away from the start of the procession. But carry on.
Allowing systems to work. Let me tell you, a lot of presidents have gone into London for this event. And a decision was taken that nobody was to bring private jets into the US, I mean the UK, because you're going to create challenges for them. The only person that I saw who drove in is one of these minibuses was President Bongo. I think he's a bit... he has, I think, a problem walking.
Yeah, but we're even told that the only person who can even bring in his own vehicle is the U.S. president.
Yes.
So he's allowed to drive the bus.
He's allowed, and then the French president.
Yeah.
And then the U.S. president, and then of course, there he is, the U.S. president.
Yeah.
And of course, that particular President Bongo.
Yes.
He has a problem walking. So they make special arrangements like that.
Yeah.
But the insistence. We've organized an event. It was well planned many years ago that the Queen will pass one day. And when she does, what do we do? And the media have to learn from this. I tell you one thing.
Okay.
There's a guy called Jon Snow. I think he used to be in Channel 4 in the UK. I think he's retired now. Okay. He called me in Ghana because he had met me once. And he asked me if I could come and have a meeting with him in London. And I went, and he asked me, and that time, President Mandela was alive. They were preparing for his death. Why would somebody prepare for somebody's death? Because this is a proper organization. We don't want to be caught unawares and then we are ill-prepared.
Okay.
So they had been planning the media thing, where the cameras would be, where a hotel for all the staff would be going, so they had a budget.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen at the time they were expecting. But when it happened, they were ready.
They were ready, exactly.
Same as Her Majesty's. So all I'm saying is that as a country, we must learn from best practices. The media must learn from them. The judiciary and the legislature, let's do what is right for Ghana to make progress. That's what I want to say.
Some of the world leaders were not too happy when the announcement was made that they cannot fly in private jets or helicopters, and they cannot also sit in their own cars. They would have to be bused to the venue. Some of them were not too happy about that. For you, I mean, I thought it was great, and I saw a lot of people celebrate that decision that was made, that finally a lot of leaders, especially African leaders, are being reminded of the fact that you don't have to spend money that you don't have to impress people who would eventually give you money to support.
Well, I think it was more of a protocol. They didn't want a disaster in the protocol arrangement. This church apparently can take only 2,000 people.
2,000, yes.
Okay, so first of all, you can fly into London. Maybe don't come near Heathrow. Nobody will meet you if you want to put your plane in some other airport, and then your high commissioner or your ambassador will drive you to a certain location. But I know that I've been through that process before. We're going somewhere, and they said, look, we didn't want everybody to come in a car. So they told us in a particular field somewhere, take your car there and the buses will be there for you.
Okay.
Now, when they make the rule, they don't easily bend it. They only bend it for the U.S. president. And I've noticed that is what they do. Because
what
of
would
his
be the
security
reason?
concerns. I mean, he drove there with his bulletproof car because America, as we know, is, you know, whatever they are, they may have caused too many problems for too many people. So, of course, the president of the United States has become a sort of a target. So when he's riding his bulletproof car into the palace, that they made concession for. And I think the French president Macron.
As well.
But all others, this is the rule. If you don't want it, then you don't have to come. But they wanted to come. So our president also arrives there.
Now, as you're saying that we should learn from them, of course, there's a lot to learn from them. But African nations are already asking for their minerals and all the wealth that they had to be returned to them now that the Queen has passed. What do you
Why did she come to rob this country or Africa? Did she do that herself?
Well, we
that
cannot
was the
say.
colonial days, you know.
But she was leader of the Commonwealth.
But modern Britain is founded on that rock of Her Majesty. Britain changed from being the empire, this thing that they've talked about, you know, pursuing this sort of thing, into something else. Now, Britain, we sort of have our parliamentary system, everything, you know, structured as the Western parliamentary structures. So they've changed from that position. They are not in Africa or anywhere else trying to harass people. They come for genuine business. If you don't want them, you can throw them out. But in the days of old, the colonial period, we all knew that these things happened. We can still not talk about it. I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't talk about these things. But if we do it well, we might even get some things back. I don't know, but we might get some things back. They haven't ruled anything out. We talk and raise issues. After Hitler died, they've gone for people who played some role in the killing of people, you know, and they'll come to bring you to book. The same way we can ask if it's done properly. But first of all, let's get our house in order. You were talking about somebody took your list, but you're not getting your house in order. If we have good systems working for us, if we don't have the corruption that has, you know, is attributed to judiciary and parliamentary, you know, it makes you not even have confidence in the way our country is going.
Well, we'll take a break at this point. We'll come back. We're still talking to Ambassador Victor Smith. He is Ghana's former British High Commissioner. Well, Ghana's former High Commissioner to the UK, pardon me. When we get back, we'll continue the conversation. Keep watching.